Okay, there's the record button. Man, I'm trying to find this power button, but it's hard to find. In the dark, it's attached to my throat, essentially, just underneath, basically hanging next to my clavicle area. And it's got the wind protector on the top, the fuzzy guy, and then it's on the inside of my shirt. So it's facing me, and the magnet side is facing out so it can get clipped on there. That reflector is always showing light from this spot. I'm on the road. I'll lift the volume here, see if you can catch maybe a distant sound, so I'll lower my voice and raise the volume of the entire recording and see what you can capture. 3, 2, 1. You hear that? Those are the sounds of war. You hear they resonate in the valley, the way they echo. Echo! I'm going to start again with that same performance. I'll deliver it at a bit more rapacious pace as I attempt to. If you get tired of me reciting some of these things and you're listening to this stuff, I do apologize, but the reason for it is audio testing as well as memory testing, because I like to memorize some important works, some works that I hold dear and that I would like to investigate further. And I do so by remembering them verbatim, because it is an exercise of the mind and of the memory to do such a thing, regardless of what you exercise, whatever you're attempting to memorize. Part of the reasons why one of this things that people hate so much about schooling here in the United States when they're growing up is, why do I gotta memorize all this stuff? Well, the point isn't the things that you are memorizing. The point is working on the mechanism of memory itself, which is important. Although increasingly that is so deep and far under attack that the memory seems but something we are willing to give to a third party and all this media storage and so on and so forth. Maybe it isn't important that things are remembered in the mind, that they aren't filtered through. There's a close one. The human experience, filtered through a human being who has experiences, and seeing what they say on the other side of that memory. I just covered my mouth a little bit, and it might have either amplified, no, it was below my lips, so it probably denied some of the audio. But I'll keep going as I stand on the precipice of the town in which I spent most of my days. I'm on the outskirts. I've been taking walks into town. Well, I took one. I meant to take another one, but I got a bit of a late start heading out into town, so it's already starting to darken. And the show of war is going on in front of me in a beautiful, secluded Montana valley. And as I listen to these sounds echo on out into the open, I desire to deliver another performance. I may be interrupted by a vehicle as I am on a road. I've already passed one this evening. Here's another close one. But we'll see where these pop off. Here we go. Oh, somebody right just over this hill is giving a show. I can't even pinpoint whose house that might be. Though I could probably pick it out if I drove down there tomorrow. Because it's not too far from where I'm at. Okay, here's the performance. It's Ovid again because it begins with the dispute and then it ends with the story of Narcissus and how he comes into contact with that specific, peculiar nymph, the name of which I've already said. As the bombs go off in the sky. Meanwhile, all these things are happening on Earth by the decrees of fate, when the cradle of Bacchus, twice born, was safe. It chanced that Jove, as the story goes, while warmed by wine, put care aside and bandied good-humored jests with Juno in an idle hour. I maintain, said he, that your pleasure in love is greater than that which we enjoy. She held the opposite view. And so they decided to ask the judgment of wise Tiresias. He knew both sides of love. For once, with the blow of his staff, he had outraged 2 huge serpents mating in the green forest. And, wonderful to relate, from man was changed into a woman, and in that form spent 7 years. In the 8th year, he saw the same serpents again and said, since in striking you there is such magic power as to change the nature of the giver of the blow, now I'll strike you once again. So saying, he struck the serpents, and his former state was restored, and he became as he had been born. He, therefore, being asked to arbitrate the playful dispute of the gods, took sides with Jove. Saturnia, they say, grieved more deeply than she should, and then they issue warranted, and condemn the arbitrator. To perpetual blindness. But the Almighty Father, for no God may undo what another God has done, in return for his loss of sight, gave Tiresias the power to know the future, lightening the penalty by the honor. He, famed far and near through all the Boeotian towns, gave answers none could censure to those who sought his aid. The first to make trial of his truth and assured utterances was the nymph Liriope, whom once the river god Cephisus embraced in his winding stream and ravished, while imprisoned in his waters. When the time came, that beauteous nymph brought forth a child and named him Narcissus. When asked whether this child would live to reach well-ripened age, the seer replied, if he never knows himself. It's still going. I wasn't planning for that many. Long did the saying, the prophets seem but empty words. But what befell proved its truth. The event, the manner of his death, the strangeness of his infatuation. For when Narcissus had reached 16, he might seem either boy or man. And many youths and many maidens sought his love, but in that slender form was pride so cold that no youth, no maiden touched his heart. Once, as he was driving the frightened deer into his nets, a certain nymph of strange speech befell him. Resounding echo, who could neither hold her peace when others spoke, nor yet begin to speak until others had addressed her. tonight is a celebratory night for that strange infatuation. But before, it's a celebration of that certain nymph and her beauty. Strange, speaking out here about something which is resounding more and more and more, to the point where tonight seems as if a culmination, maybe a turning of a page, maybe the dawn of a new understanding. The epicness of the atmosphere created by these fireworks is, in this small, hidden, secluded, forgotten valley of those who are kind of remembering things about the past. And as I was going through a bit of reading today from the most famous general to first set foot on these plains, I was reading about these landscapes from the eyes of 150 years ago. And more. And those eyes said people who have seen it have not even yet begun to comprehend the vastness. It said it is no desert, though it is. But it is not a desert like those been put in your mind by the speakers of fire. Because their desert is a different thing entirely. Our desert is green and lush. Even the Badlands have a strange beauty about them. The great general said those out east are those who have taken train rides through swaths of the Kansas landscape and Nebraska, the Platte River and the Missouri, so on and so forth. Don't understand how the plains aren't a desert. They're like a vast ocean which is trapped by the slow movements of the rocks, though yet they still move as if water. It's a beautiful landscape. And as the Rocky Mountains rise, heading west, there are some particularly beauteous sights to behold. Beheld. I said it again. That is the one word that has been a sticking point, because it's what befell was the nature of his death in the recital I'm talking about earlier. But when the nymph Echo arises, she did not befell him. I just lost it again because I use befell and it's like it deletes the other word from my brain. Beheld. It's so difficult because beheld is, I'm thinking about it wrong because I'm thinking about visually, because the story is about Narcissus. So when she sees him, takes him in, what she says is, it's just, the story makes me think that it's a visual thing when you first come into contact with them. You take them in, you see them, though that's how you, but when you behold something, to hold is to physically touch, to feel. So you have my personal perspective, which views the telling as a visual, echo, gotta look at Narcissus, because everyone loves him. And the description before is that all the youths and all the maidens are in love with him. He might seem either boy or man. He's got that universal attraction to all. And that is a plague on him. To the point, because imagine, now this is a narcissistic exercise, but imagine you were so famous that everywhere you went, people loved you. And they loved you because of your universal appeal. Now, many hold in this story that it is a visual story. But who is our counterpart in the female? It is Echo. She has strange sounds, and she beholds him. Maybe she loves Narcissus, not for the way that he looks, because the tragedy is he gets trapped into a visual experience. But the reason that people loved him was because of how he seemed, more than just looking at yourself. But what does the seer say? To know himself. He knew himself, and he knew the reflection that everyone else gave back onto him. And that affection was adoration all the time. Imagine that. Now, those who are starved of some adoration, of course, becomes a difficult thing to imagine. But certainly you've been adored. Some people have not. Some people do not even know their own mothers and fathers, and even their caregivers when they were young provided them with zero adoration. I'm not talking about those unfortunate souls, because that is a case of thing that happens. Absolutely. Might have a car coming up the road here. We'll see what they say to us. I'm just going to sit on my bike here and see if they even pick me out. No, they're pulling into the garage literally ahead of me. But while I do feel for those unfortunate souls I'm talking about, even for them, I suppose this might even resonate greater, because adoration is good, but imagine nothing but adoration. That's like drinking nothing but alcohol. That's like drinking nothing but wine, or doing nothing but drugs, never having a time to just settle. That's why I think some of these celebrities, even though in the modern climate, it's becoming increasingly popular to despise celebrity. Those old celebrities, the ones that represent the boomer generation that is increasingly becoming a tiresome type of person. Their ideals, the way they were brought up. It's a sad state for that generation, because they are reaching an age where they are being taken care of. And who are they being taken care of by? Is that beautiful, nurturing government that is known as the United States government. In its current form, they're taken care of by the medical industry in its current form. And that is a whole new frontier of torture that they do not fully grasp, into which they are being shoveled. And I laugh because of how sad it is. Because if anyone got a bit of a microscope put onto them in some previous years, it was certainly aspects of medicine and how it is performed in the present age, in the present day and age. It's either being fed some sort of chemical, some regimen of chemicals in pill form to make the pain dissipate. And there's going to be a feeling that's essentially like receiving nothing but adoration until death, though there is time that the body, even old and frail, becomes accustomed to the reception of all sorts of chemical so there will be times of nothing but pain and sadness, and delirium will come as a welcome gift to the mind in a certain amount of pain to be able to attempt to put yourself through it and overcome it. Now, that might be too harsh of a proposition to put forth, but it might be perhaps that those who suffer from things as dementia welcome it. At times. Well, it might even be that confusion is a more preferable state than outright pain. And we fear this about age, that the memory will fade. Our loved ones will visit us in our comfortable bed, and we will say, "Who are you?" And maybe we'll even do it as a joke now and again. It draws to a scary fact that loss of memory is a very frightening experience to those who witness it. But to those who are experiencing it, it may very well be preferable to the pain. Now, this is not a bright outlook, a bit too philosophical and a bit too, well, frightful of technological manipulation of masses. A bit sad, but not true. In the sense that not true for all. And perhaps true to varying degrees, depending on who you're talking to, and their age, and whether they seem boy or man, or either. Because some will have been attempting to hone their memory more than others, and directing it in certain ways so that they can continue to see even when they are confused. Because confusion is becoming more general as well. Not just the confusion of youth and puberty, but the confusion of entering into a civil life, into a profession which has its own unique custom and culture and breed. It's like working in the great anthill. You come to and you're given a job to perform, and you perform that for a bit. The one job isn't enough for most, nor should it ever be. Because as men and as women, we perform different roles. And these roles change over time. And that adoration that Narcissus felt from all was something different. That's for sure. It was the reflection of the beauty of the world itself. And everything with which came together to make him, even a mother who was ravished in a river, even that was something to behold, as in hold it beautifully as it is. As I've been talking a decent amount about that unification of two, the coming together of pleasure and pain. And I don't mean this in a BDSM way. Though that is odd, isn't it? That characters who bring about new things are often seen as having some sort of fetish. It is strange. Those are the explorers. Those are the frontiered explorers of human relations. And Bacchus requires it for some fucking reason, even though, to me, personally, a lot of activity is abhorrent, or you might say disgusting. That which produces vomit. Apologies. Apologies to Bacchus. There he is. You hear that? Just on time. That is the booming voice of the one who rules these lands, first and foremost. It is Liber. It is liberty. Today is a celebration of him. So it goes without saying that I am at odds with this gentleman at times, certainly. And I attempt to consult the 12 others, which hold high seats and might consider to know a thing or two about the nature of this being. Though those 12 are not at war. With liberty. Though he is still might seem either boy or man. And many youths and many maidens sought his love. But in that slender form was pride so cold that no youth, no maiden touched his heart. The problem with liberty, if it can be said, is that he is alone in the world. As I said that, with this show going on before me, I will let you know, I don't make certain things I make up for comedic effect or whatever, but as I just said that he was alone in the world. A shooting star came from the direction of the moon, which is pointing away from town, from right to left, and shot down just over town. Now the actual landing point is, who knows? If I could estimate from here, I would say the landing point is somewhere near perhaps Bozeman. Generally, the largest area, let's just say the Gallatin Valley. That thing probably landed in the Gallatin Valley. And what landed might be the literal incarnation of Liber as he descends down in human form to go and, well, give the world a taste of how he really is. Now, I'm frightful to describe him as such, as a loner, as alone, but look at what is being produced by all the liberty that we have in America. Isolation. Because what do we know about Liber? He leads the Bacchanalia. He leads his hordes, his throngs of orgies across the lands and casts aside all civic duty in order to bring about a change. And the change that he's bringing about has been here. It is always changing. But increasingly it's producing in especially young men, but also young women of a certain type. It's producing in them isolation. Now these are a different type of follower. They are not out charging around in the Bacchanalia. They are witnessing it, and they are planning for the change with which they see. And they will partake every now and again, as you must, in the horde, in the orgy. And that's what I'm doing going down into town today. Because I know that even though they are a wily bunch who are casting aside their duty, what is liberty ultimately doing to bring about the change that he desires? He's accumulating more in his masses. And while he is a bit of a loner type, he is very eccentric, and he is wickedly attractive to all. In a way that is innocent. And isn't that quite the conundrum about the nature of liberty and his innocence? Can you imagine it? The leader of all such activities, the one who walks at the front of the horde, of literal, and can I say it again, orgies, sexual deviancy. And he marches at the front, and they are at his beck and call. And what is he but a virgin? What a character we are all about to meet. What an interesting character that will make unto the world while these things were happening in accordance by the decrees of fate. Well, I welcome him, but I also know that the horde that marches behind him can march to an orgy, and they can equally march into a war because what he's been recruiting is warriors. To bring about his change. the old way. Was incapable, weighed and measured and found. Not up to the task. So he's here. And this evening we celebrate. It is cooling a bit. It's a surprisingly cool day for July 4th. But there's been storms passing through and raining from time to time. Twice today, 2 different ones, but right now the sky is perfectly clear. The moon is providing fantastic light on this dark road. I'm about to go into town, see who I might run into and what might happen and what might befall me, but perhaps I might behold someone I do not know. Though if it is liberty willing. All right, I'm gonna jump on my bike. I might give one on the way back, though it'll probably be too cold. I feel as if I've talked enough. It's time to go celebrate. Here's to Liberty. Here's to Echo. Here's to Lyriope. And even Cephasus. All right. Et vera incessu patuit Dea.